Another episode of Rant and Wade here with me, Wade McElwain. I'm consistent doing the episodes now, trying to get them out week by week if I can, and found a way to chop them up. So, content. It's also good for me, therapy, the rapey, just to be able to get out some stuff, to be able to talk and be able to just feel good. You know, I don't know if I feel good. I feel better. And then my dogs are now coming around because I don't understand who I'm talking to. Right, buddy? Yeah, you won't be in this episode. He's going to try to get in this episode. So in this episode, man, I thought about different topics I wanted to do. And in this, he is in this episode. Right, buddy? Yes, I know. Yeah, I'm about to say some dirty stuff, buddy. I know. This is Jake. This is my mom's dog. I've come back from Canada. If you're only listening to this in audio, you can't see him. He's just going to put his butt in the picture. I've come back to Canada to take care of this dog. Brought my dog Dolly back. He's 14 and a half. Mine is 15 and a bit. And dogs, problems. Old, expensive. I've talked about in the last one. So in this episode, Jake, cover your earmuffs. The one I was going to talk about, this is pornography. Yeah, I vacillated over some different topics to talk about. And I thought, you know what? This is a topic to talk about. Why? Because porn is important. It makes up a big bulk. It makes up a big bulk of our internet. And they said that the average child is exposed to pornography at 11. And given that I have a 15-year-old daughter turning 16 this year, happy birthday, kiddo. Probably not good to wish her happy birthday on the Pornography podcast. But she's probably been exposed to it, you know, and pornography has changed dramatically from when I was a kid, from when I was 11. I think I was 11 the first time I saw some stuff, and I was like, whoa, I feel all googly in my stomach. What is going on? Why is that woman got no clothes on? So I guess I thought I would go into pornography just because it's got some real cultural significance, also some technological significance, which people may not realize. You know, everyone thinks that porn is new for them and it's all great. And, you know, porn's been around for a long time, like cave painting, 30,000 years ago. Venus of Willendorf, a lot of people thought it was a doll of fertility. If you've ever seen it, Google Venus of Willendorf. But, you know, even cave paintings had erotic depictions in them. The earliest joke was a fart joke, was a Sumerian fart joke about a woman farting in her husband's lap. Not pornography, but back then, taboo. Venus of Willendorf, as I said, it was a figure of fertility, but also, you know, guys would sort of take care of themselves to it. And so ancient civilizations, you know, the Greeks and the Romans, pornography was heavily, you know, whether it was in art or pottery or frescoes or just in literature. You know, it was commonplace for many cultures to have a little bum boy, which was a young man who you buggered. We're getting there so quickly. And so those are sort of civilizations. You know, you look at even in Asia as well, with Japan, shunga woodlocks, and in China, depictions of sexuality. And obviously there was a difference between being naked and being nude. Nude was more classical, naked was just more of exposed. And so the differentiations we had, and let's not even think about or talk about, we will talk about, maybe let's talk about the Kama Sutra. Lots of porn going on there. People getting that for the first time going, whoa, slow down, India. We just do the missionary, and you flipped it on its edge, literally, figuratively, and and as I said, because there has been a change now in pornography, the way it's changed. You know, I look at this. There was this girl in the news. Obviously, this Bonnie Blue. She's a British girl from Sheffield, 25 years old, and set a record in 24 hours for 1,057 men. Originally wanted to do 1,000, but there was 57 extra guys. Like, hey, come on, throw a hot dog down the hallway if you want. And it's, you know, there's a lot going on with that. 1,057 men. I was doing the maths in terms of that. And if the average penis size is like 5.16 inches erect, then she literally did over, you know, almost 457 feet. I think just over 457 feet of dick in a day. 457 feet of dick in a day. It sounds like a 90s band, doesn't it? 457 feet of dick. It does. And that's great. You think your marathon was tough. almost 500 feet of dick in a day. But most importantly, she raised $800 for the church. And I think that's what people are missing out. I don't know. Some trauma there. I don't know why. I mean, I guess some people or young people are pushing themselves to do new things. Not something I would, personally want to achieve, but for her, maybe there's some personal trauma that goes on for her. And, I'm sure her parents are proud, or maybe they're such bad parents. That's why she got into porn. Sometimes that happens. That's why strippers have daddy issues. A lot of them. I don't even think they have strippers anymore. I don't know. I don't watch porn because I have a girlfriend, but I did at one point. But this Bonnie Blue, man, I mean, at 25 years old, taking that much, it's got to be harsh on your innards to be able to do that. And also, I would think on your personal life going forward, like getting married, there's always going to be that, that story about, your wife, Of course, how did we meet? Well, I was number 728 in line, but we had a connection. And I might have been number 728, but I was number one in her heart. And so you hope that this doesn't set a precedent for a lot of young women to go, I can beat 1,057. Apparently one of her, rivals, if you can call that, in pornography, is going to try to beat that with anal, which, bless you. Really, I'm not a religious person, but really bless you, because that's a lot of penis. Of course, when I'm talking history of pornography, I just dovetailed there to Bonnie Blue, because as I've mentioned before, I've got the ADHD, so I'm just going to bouncy. But I'm just sipping on some iced coffee today, so I'm hoping that will focus me. Or is that just going to make me crazier? Porn hit a little flattening out in sort of the Middle Ages, Christian Europe. Christianity, wow, that really didn't like pornography for a while. It went underground, is what we're saying. A lot of the erotic materials were suppressed, they were burned. The church took over, which I think people would rather have had Bonnie Blue take over than the church, because they had their own forms. The Catholic Church has, bugger them, have had their own problems with that. But then, little changes. And technology, of course, in a lot of cases, and I'll get into this, but technology has an effect on pornography. The printing press was able to then print out wider distribution of erotic literature, sharing erotic literature. 18th century had a book called Fanny Hill by John Cleland, which you can try to Google. But then it just became a new sort of medium. 19th century visuals. Once we had photography, then you get the slutty pictures. Like, ooh, I'm going to show a bit of ankle. And people would push the boundaries with that, and you'd have sort of an underground current of pornography. Then pornography continued to grow, and when you hit the years when I was, not that I was into it, but then you had the magazines that started coming out, the Jugs, and all of the different ones. For me, the big one was Playboy, and that's how I was exposed to it, pardon the pun, but not really, pardon the pun. Because back when I was a kid, the way that you got pornography was like you'd had an uncle that would leave magazines in bushes. And you're like, oh, it's like Porny Santa has just left me some erotic materials. And you look, you're like, oh. And you'd see like big tufts of pubic hair and 80s nipples and those kind of things. You're like, oh, this is crazy. Of course, one of my uncles, he liked the magazines, so some of them he left me. You'd see Playboy, and Playboy, to be honest, as much as people bemoan it, and the girls at Playboy Mansion bemoan that, there were some good articles. You had Gore Vidal, you had like really good writers in it, really good articles, which, I'm going to be honest, at 12, I was not really interested in the articles. The bush. But then he would also leave me ones like Penthouse, and those were confusing. Because then you just see it, and there was a girl peeing on another girl, and you're like, why is she peeing on her? What is going on with this? What kind of person would enjoy this? What is this? And I was just horrified, because I grew up on a farm, and, that, I guess I didn't know if she was marking her territory. It's like, this is my woman now, and so I'm peeing on her, whatever it was. But you had the 70s and 80s where it started to, the print magazines, that's where it was. That's where the porn was. Then, of course, I'll talk about the porno theaters in a little bit. Then you had, the 80s come along, and then VHS. And then you start getting the VHS of porn. It's like, ooh. And, technology has always been influenced by porn. Even today, technology has been driven because men are horny. They can't think with our fuck stick, and and that draws us along. I'm getting hoarse already just talking about the porn. So then the VHS tapes, and of course, then you got people copying tapes, that you would go and brought into the rise of public peep shows and things like that. And then you get into 90s, and then you get into CDs, DVDs. It started again with the digital revolution in computers. I mean, when I was in the 90s, you would look, like, oh, someone would send you a porn, and it would take multiple hours. There was no video because of the streaming capabilities, and the bandwidth just wasn't there. It literally took a day to get a song. So a porn, no. But someone would send you a naked picture, and you'd wait, and it's like, did it. I remember even people in like the dot matrix printers with people printing out a porny picture, and it would use so much of your printer cartridge just to be able to print out. And you're like watching. It's like, oh, it's going to be a boob. It's going to be a boob. But then the internet, obviously started to drive it, because then you had, people started to want, and there became more and more websites. I remember, in the early days of it, there was like, someone put me, it was like Amateur Cam or something, amateurs or something like that, whatever it was. And it was like girls could put up a profile, and it's like, oh, okay, girls are taking control. But then you also had the porno films, because I met a guy, this guy Brad Hirsch, and his wife was this girl Raylene, and she was a porn star. She did stripping, but then his family was part of Vivid Entertainment. Very interesting guy. I think his brother Stephen Hirsch, there was like the Hirsch family, they own Vivid. But I talked to her about it. Very interesting, the lifestyle that she had with it, and just a very down to earth, lovely girl. And he was lovely too. We talked hockey. But he was telling me about the porn industry, and this was in the 90s, early 2000s, when it was like kind of really heyday. And that was when it was really big, porn, and you'd have these porn performers, and, you could see movies like Boogie Nights, or if you can see part of it, it was like in the 70s and 80s, lots of drugs. And so then as the broadband internet started to come, it started to take away, but it also made a lot of copyright issues difficult for a lot of porn performers, because suddenly you're working hard, on your back all day, and then suddenly it's just being copied and distributed somewhere, and you're not getting paid for that. As an actor, I know how frustrating that can be. It's like someone's like, not paying me for my work, man. And then suddenly it's like, oh, okay. And then became this digital distribution age where you got the porn hubs, which is, I think it's MindGeek. It's a Canadian company, by the way. Go Canada. We're into porn. And number one for serial killers, which has nothing to do with that. But the porn revolution came, and then you sort of have these people that, again, the Jenna Jamesons, you probably know of her, that she was big into the flicks and big into DVDs and VHS, and then suddenly she's watching her visage, amongst other things, being displayed on the internet, and she's not getting a cut of it. And so it's like, hey, what's going on, man? Why am I not getting paid for this? Pornhub now is sort of the de facto, I guess. I think it's one of the biggest ones. I think it's like in the top 4. But 130 million people watching porn. I think there's something like, there's a new film every 39 minutes. There's probably 30,000 people in the world watching porn right now. While I'm talking to you. 30,000 people, or 30, maybe it could be more than that. 130 million people a day. 4.5 billion people a month. U.S. number 1, UK number 2, India, Japan, Canada, all. I read some of the stats on this, and it's interesting, that 18 to 34 most popular for watching porn, because they got the sex drive for it. You've got 69% of men, 40% of women have said in the past year they've watched porn, and 11% of men and 3% of females say they're addicted to porn. Interesting fact, 25% have said they've also viewed and downloaded at work. I've never been at work and thought, you know what? Screw the firewall. Let's just see if we can get a little fuck flick on here. Most search terms, teen and MILF. Not teen MILF together, because that sounds like a great movie. Teen MILF. It's like a Freaky Friday thing. Like, it's kind of like Teen Wolf, but for porn. There probably has been a teen MILF. I don't know. You would think you would hit with both of them, the double. the double there. And again, every 39 minutes, a new film. Another interesting thing that I read, too, is that hotels, over 70% of their room service revenue comes from porn. When I was traveling on the road as a stand-up comic, I used to bring a cable box, like those old cable boxes, and you would have those coaxial cables you would put in, and you would bypass. Not to get porn, but because we wanted, like, the movies. Because when you're on the road, I'm not going to watch porn. Because guys, I would say too, when I did watch porn, guys are like quite visual creatures. You'd find that one segment, it's like, fast forward, fast forward, fast forward. Okay, just give me that 30 seconds. Yeah, Rista Majesty, sounds like Harry Potter. And then boom, the magic stick. And then the cleanup. My mom used to ban us from having towels in our bedrooms when we were teenage boys. Wonder why. Why did the towels all crunchy? Oh, speaking of that, here's one gross thing I really read, and because if you're not into porn, this whole podcast is gross for you, very gross. But 84% of people in America, think child porn is immoral. 84%, which beckons the question: who the hell is this 16%? Who's like, yeah, you know what, Squirrel Kids is all right. You know, this is absolutely atrocious. Who are you people? What is wrong with you? It's not right. Child porn is absolutely not right. It's not right. You're not right in the head. You got something wrong. You need a chemical castration. You need something wrong. Children, no. Bad. Put your genitals away. Leave it alone. You're ruining Christmas. Man, yeah. So that's just all bunch of weird, boring, wrong stuff. Yeah, let me take a. I don't have a sponsor, and I don't think I would after dovetailing from child porn to sipping a latte. It's just disgusting stuff. It really is. So let me talk about porn theaters, because when I was young, there was adult theaters, and these were, you'd see it, they would list it, and they'd have these weird, movie posters of what was on, and it just seems to me it's just interesting that people used to go to these porn theaters and watch porn, and men would like all sort of sit just like in a movie theater, just like in a regular movie theater, except they'd have their dicks out and watching it. And literally, in a busy day, it could be you elbow to elbow, if he's a righty, you're a lefty, whatever. And you're just, sorry. And you're literally knuckling it to the same movie and maybe to the same spot. And then, I don't know, maybe guys are just pulling away at it. And then someone has to clean that up. There's actually, someone that would have to go around and clean up from the after show. And then if you had another show coming in, right, like a lot of cases you want to book it in, you would have to go and like moppy sloppy and get rid of all that stuff. And I guess that's also too, like for a lot of, if you're a movie theater, because it boomed like in the 60s and 70s, there was chains of these theaters where, did it become a community? I don't know. Like, would you see guys, if you both had things in common, like Blondes with Big Bush or something like, I don't know. I'm not sure. You'd be like, hey, Jerry, what's up? Hey, how's it going? And the same one from last week. Because, obviously if you see a movie you like it, guys are just, repetitive. So they'd be like, oh, I remember they won the scene. I should have saved it for that scene. And it also grew as well. So there was also... there used to be ones. Now I just thought it was funny because people would actually keep these alive. Like you would literally get in your car, drive to the porno theater. Maybe your wife knew, maybe she didn't, probably not. And then you would watch porn with strangers and masturbate. And oh man, there's got to be a movie in that, or a TV show just about a community of people. And maybe trying to keep the last one alive. Maybe that would be good. I don't know. I would watch it. Maybe there has been. I'm not really sure. But then there were also things like in New York in the 1970s, they had these things called peep shows. And a peep show was like you'd go into a booth and there would be maybe a girl stripping, or maybe it was just like a movie, like an old movie reel. And you'd have your own private booth. Sometimes there were dual booths, right? In case you wanted to bring someone with you. And then you would sit and either put in cash, coins, or tokens, and you would get like, the thing would go up and you would like do your thing. I don't know any of this. I'm too young for those things, but I am keen researcher. and I did some research for everyone on this episode. Glory holes, huh? Do you know what those are? So those would be two where they decided, the theater owners probably thought, look, guys keep digging holes, cutting holes in the doors here because, you figure, well, I'm horned up enough. What if someone were to put their mouth, vagina, anus against this and then, enrich the experience if that's what you're looking for? So glory holes grew. A lot of truck stops, I guess, would have those as well. If you've ever been in a toilet washroom and you've seen a big hole and thought, maybe they have a termite problem. They did not. They have a problem. It's meetups. In England, I when I first moved there, they had this thing I didn't know called dogging. Now, dogging is like you go and someone would announce, like back in a newspaper, or maybe I don't know how they did it originally before digital age. But then Pete, you just go and you watch like a couple, and maybe she hangs her boob out the window, and you give it a little honk, and these couples would just just perform sexual acts, and maybe sometimes when people get involved. They still have these kind of spas you see now. There was one near me in Kentish Town in London, which was like one of these spas where it's like no single guys. I think you could, but you had to pay like a lot of money because who wants a bunch of single guys ogling and touching? But it would be couples that would go to these things, and they would have, your thing. You do your stuff in like in a water, in a pool, because that's where you really want to have the sex. There was another big porno movie, and I think so. Bob Guccione, he was a guy who owned Penthouse, and he did this movie that I saw. Well, because it was all the talk when you're in. You ever seen Caligula? You've seen Caligula? Caligula was a Roman emperor, horrible guy. He used to, the rumors were that he used to have someone, he would make you have sex with his horse. I'm like, no, I'll pay tax instead. I'm not doing that. But the movie was actually quite big because of the names. Like Helen Mirren was in it, Peter O'Toole, Malcolm McDowell, John Gielgud. I think they thought that it was going to be like, this like really Roman romantic telling movie, and then Guccione's afterwards like, okay, bring in the dicks, and then he purposely brought in well-endowed men for it because he wanted, I guess people to go, oh my. But this was a story, a telling of the Roman emperor, and it was very difficult, but I know you always had someone's dad was always like a porny, there was always that one guy's dad who's like, he had just a chest of like porn. And I'm sure you thought, oh, his marriage is sound. But there would always, I remember watching it. And you're like, there's a lot of art in this. And then suddenly it would be like, oh. I think the actors were horrified when they actually found out that it that it actually was this. Because, a lot of people when they got into porn, I guess they thought it was proper cinema. I guess they thought, it was perhaps, if you look at Boogie Nights, which is a good Paul Thomas Anderson, I think it is, who did it. Great movie, interesting. Marky Mark is good in it, and even the Wonderland movie about John Holmes. I think Val Kilmer was in that one as well. You really saw the seedy side of it because, believe it or not, folks, and I'm not gonna to shock you on this one, there was drugs. There's drugs involved in a lot of cases in porn. I think the big heyday age of porn, there's a lot of people, as I said, I've met porn stars. I was in Vegas once and the AVN Awards was on, and coincidentally, it's not something I went down to, but you'd see all these people and I'm like, why are these women like flirting with me? Oh, they're not just, because sometimes if you're late at night in Vegas, like a really hot woman will come up and be like, hey, how you doing? You're getting lucky tonight? Oh my God. And you're like, oh, I'm charming. I'm very charming. And it's like, oh, prostitute. Not my style, but good on you if that's what you like. I'm a vanilla guy, and again, I'm in a relationship, so I think she would not approve of that. But I did meet a lot of porn stars. I met because I worked in entertainment. I met a lot of people who, obviously cameramen and people who work in porn, makeup artists. Did you? This came to me again, pun. But there are people. There's a makeup artist who's there to color buttholes. Did you know that there's someone, because they don't brown, the natural shade is not, it's not luxurious for the camera, and so they have someone to color it, make it a little more pink. I guess that's. But the one thing that all of my friends or anyone who's worked on the porn set, the one thing they describe, everyone, the smell, because it might look glamorous and everything. I guess if you're watching a porn and you're like, oh, that's really glamorous, because a lot of homes are shot for porn. They have like porn houses. You're like, I've seen that before. And some people are like, yeah, they rent it out for porn. Other people would be unfortunate enough to watch you like, hey, I saw your house in a movie. Yeah. How's your couch smell? But the smell, and a friend of mine was telling me about this. He's like, you come in there because it's just cavities, of humanity. And, people are, there's lots of fluids, and there's periods, and there's orifices that are, plugged and unplugged, and people are human. And he also said there's times when their guys are very well endowed, and they all cut, and the girl's like, oh my God, crying like, this is not right. And you're like, oh my God, that's horrible. And he also said there's numbing spray. A friend of mine also said they use numbing spray, which I guess is something that if you're going to take a member to your maybe throat or something like that they would numb it just to make sure that you're just like, oh, okay, just so it doesn't hurt so much. But the drug use, obviously quite big, because I think a lot of times too, if you're like, you're getting paid this money to do this, I would want, maybe just to tune out, just to sort of, tuck it deep down, just to get rid of any issues that you might have with it. I would, particularly, I've had an ex that wanted to film us once, and I'm like, I've seen me, and I don't want to look like just one of those like Marineland kind of like a walrus, trying to walk, and you're like, oh, I just don't want that. Hi, buddy. Yeah, you woke up to the walrus, didn't you? Probably also not a good name. There was the hedgehog. Wasn't that Ron Jeremy? Wasn't it? Because he looked like it. But he's also in trouble. There were celebrities. I mean, I think John Hamm used to work on porn sets. Sylvester Stallone has been in porn, I believe. Tom Sizemore starred in his own porn. And there were accidental ones. I mean, there was porn theaters. Speaking about it, what's his name? Jeffrey. He was the principal in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Jeffrey Jones. He was in a porn theater. Or no, he got caught with child porn, I think. Probably why he's blackballed. Also, probably a name of a movie. Fred Willard, when he was like 78. Remember Fred Willard, Best in Show? He was also in Modern Family, I believe. He played Phil Dunphy's father. 78 years old, he gets busted in a porn theater. He's great in Best in Show, though. But at that age, you're sort of like, what are you doing, man? But maybe he didn't know any better. Paul Rubens, famously in Florida, caught in an adult movie theater. Paul Rubens was Pee Wee Herman, which again it sounds like a porn name, but it's not. It was a children's entertainer name. And then you had Hugh Grant. Remember Hugh Grant? He got busted. It was different. He got busted with a prostitute in Hollywood. And then he had to go on like Jay Leno a couple weeks later and admit it. George Michael got busted. But that was in a bathhouse in LA, and I think in London as well. Sometimes you just go, that's where the glory holes come in. And then the funny one was also, well, not really funny, but Eddie Murphy was caught with a trans person in his car. And the excuse was, I'm just giving them a ride home. I think back then it was the 90s. Everyone's like, Eddie? Really? Like, what's, not that there's anything wrong with that, Eddie, but what's wrong? Are you okay, Eddie? Everything okay at home? I'm giving them a ride home. And everyone believed it. So yeah, porn on set. And the other thing is too, I guess it's also the pay rates. Like that's, cause I was talking to someone, another person who's a porn performer. I sound like very porny, but just because I'm in the arts, and a lot of times when I would do comedy, we would have to work with, well, we'd not have to, we would work with strippers on the road. And it's very difficult to follow strippers, particularly in an all-male crowd, particularly if the crowd came to see the strippers and you're just you're like, oh, okay. And so but they would tell me stories because sometimes, there's a transition for A lot of times strippers start out their work as the bartender in the club. They're like, I'm never going to take my clothes off. And then they see how much money the girls are making taking their clothes off. Like, I've got a better body than her. And then a lot of them transfer, because you have porn producers that come in and say, hey, how'd you like to make some extra money? But apparently, so girl on girl, I think was like the cheapest. Girl on guy, from what I've heard, it was like $1,000 for like guy on girl, like cheaper, like $500 maybe for. I wrote it down just because I don't have these figures off the top of my head. It sounds like I'm just rattling off these numbers. $1,200 for anal. That's the bum stuff. $4,000 for a double penny, which is not something you get at Olive Garden. Although you could. I haven't been to Olive Garden. We don't have them in Canada. And then, the top performers, I guess, could make like $100,000, $250,000 a year. Although I don't know what that's anymore, if they could, based on the rise of OnlyFans, which I will get into. But men, and a lot of men, because a lot of men, obviously men get paid a lot less. Like I think their average was $40,000 a year. But if they go gay, because a lot of times people want to see a straight guy turned, I'm okay with it. I teach your own, but yeah. And I think that's double. You get double. Not penetration, just double the pay. But the other thing for a guy, the other thing too is that, a lot of people think, I could do that. And I don't know why you'd want to, but some guys have a high sex drive, higher than me. And a lot of them have erectile dysfunction, apparently. And that because they're so addicted to porn anyway, for them to actually complete the job, not on cue, as they say, that they've got to have porn. Like they've got to have porn on their phone or porn on something to watch. So like, okay, I could do it now. I just think the ability of someone to go, okay, and I need you to ejaculate. I'd be like, what? I think that's just a little too much to ask. I said the AVN Awards, I was down there for that. And there was lots of different, like newbie. I met the girl who won Best Newbie. I met Sasha Grey. She was very nice. But they're all staying in the hotel I was at, and they just see them afterwards, and I was like, what's going on? And I was like, we're at a TV conference. I'm like, their conference seems way more fun, way more drugs than we were doing. Yeah. What am I getting into now? Okay. I'm still going through all the stuff, and it's just, this is for a lot of people like, this is gone. You were talking about world peace and war, and you got into screwing. Yeah. OnlyFans is a big thing now. Now, I'll tell you what. Because I'm a big because as I said, technology is often fueled by pornography. Whether it's streaming, and to be honest, like the streaming services and the way the internet has been propelled a lot by the porn industry. You got deep pockets, multi-billion-dollar industry. In a lot of cases, people want more. Payment processing systems. I know working in the gambling industry, when I was working in gambling, that we could credit a lot of that to the porn industry. And in many cases, a lot of these payment processors started as ways, because, that's how people would make transactional, and you had to have safe, secure transactions. You had to make sure that no one could see what you're doing. And the gambling industry obviously took some cues from that. So in a lot of ways, it's pushing, even now with VR and things like that, with robotics, because, eventually it will be robotics. And then you also have to wonder, too, with the AI revolution that's coming now, how soon before we're not actually really using humans? How soon? Because, you go on a website like CArt, if you've ever been, you could do very dirty things. A lot of protocols there, but, there's that deep fakes that are going on, that Scarlett Johansson, obviously was horrified, rightly so, that someone would use her image. But these deep fakes, and you wonder, is it going to be this moral ground where we're actually not using humans anymore? The technology has pushed it that far. Back, I guess, it would have been 2000, maybe 2010, I guess it was. I was working with gambling industry, and there was a site I came across, figuratively, called My Free Cams, and it was I believe it was a British site. And the whole thing about this was that it was, you had all of these females on there, and they personalized it. This is a precursor to OnlyFans. And so I was on there one night. I just talking to a friend, I'm like, you should check this out. Because I was looking at it going, wow, okay, these girls are getting really big audiences. They're making their own personalities. And I was like, I wonder if we could get them to do like gambling tips, like NFL tips, like, while in the middle of their taking off their clothes. And by the way, and I think the Packers are going to win by 6 this weekend over the Vikings. So I was like, if they've got a huge audience. So it was an interesting thing to me that these girls could then, set their own tone, set their own payments, incentivize. And I was like, ooh, and this became OnlyFans. In fact, the people who bought or people who created my free cams took a 75% stake in OnlyFans because I guess they saw it. I don't know why, obviously, because for me, it was a business transactional kind of thing. It wasn't a pornographic. I know people out there are like, yeah, sure it was. But for me, it was like, all these girls have got their own, your creator model. And there was one girl who used to do like really cool impressions. And so she was very funny, but she used to do some pretty edgy ones like Osama bin Laden and stuff. And I was like, ooh, you're going to get in trouble with some of your audience. Like what's the girl who, something, Mia something. Yeah. She got Mia Khalifa. That's it. She was Muslim. But anyway, so when I started watching this, I was like, to me, it was because the industry I was working in, and also being a creator, you're like, oh, this is going to be something. And this is, again, like 2010. So this is like 15 years ago. I think with the streaming models and the way that technology worked, it took sort of that breakthrough to be able to happen. OnlyFans, I mean, now is crazy. Like, you've got like 3.5 million. What did I write here? There's 305 million accounts with 4.1 million creators. So a lot of people watching, and girls can make some good money. Although they say something that's like, what did I read here? Each person has an average of 21 subscribers. So there's gonna be some that have big ones and some that don't. 14% of them are men, and there's interesting enough, I read that the average age obviously is 32-year-old for men, 29 for females, but there are older ones. And bless you, if you're in your 70s and you got a niche, a fetish, people go with that. Again, I've actually never seen OnlyFans, just because I don't. Not my thing. But I'm interested in the technology. I'm interested in content creation and curation. The other thing, too, I was looking at, because I was trying to figure out with, like, ChatGPT or something like that, what are the odds, like, as the amount of people that perform in pornography, whether it's, like, people from the 70s or 80s, how soon in your social circle would you engage with someone or know someone who actually does porn or something akin to that, whether it was someone's grandma who used to be in Jugs magazine or someone now who's an OnlyFans. And then ChatGPT was like, it's probably, something to that demographic is if you're in your 20s and you live in the San Fernando Valley, you're pretty good chance, but who knows if you're in a small town, maybe there's like a girl in the small town who does it. I don't really know. They've paid off $5 billion to the creators so far in terms of this, and so it seems to be a model. But I mean, I guess it's an economy of scale, because I would imagine that there are some, because you see these girls like, I made 30 million last year, and it's like, okay, what? I don't know what they do. I'm imagining it's selling, but to me, it's this is sort of the ultimate in terms of creator economy, in that people that want to be influencers. This degree of influencing. I've also noticed, because, I'm getting old, but to me, Instagram is nothing but pornography. Because you see all these girls, the people that have like the 3 million, 2 million, and it's like, oh, okay, it just seems like it's like the spank mags of the 70s and 80s, pretty much, without the nipple on the bush, but they show a lot. And it was interesting enough, because I was in Dubai, and I was doing a show, and a lot of rich guys that were there, and they said, oh, we're ordering some Insta-hoes. And I was like, is that like noodles? And they're like, no, like Instagram models. And there is, it blew my mind, that they're rich people, not me, rich people will contact like these girls on Instagram and say, we'll fly you to Dubai for like sex. And these girls do it. Like, they do it. And I worried as a father. I'm like, what? And he's like, this one guy's like, yeah, man, any girl over 1 million, like anyone can be bought. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, I get that. But like any girl over a couple million followers is pretty much doing stuff on the side. And I was like, that seems, I don't know how true that is, But all of these girls, like, and I met some, and they were showing me that, like, oh, these are quite attractive girls. They're like flying her over, and these girls like have a list of stuff they'll do and stuff they won't do. And Dubai is supposed to be this paradise of Muslim sanctity. It's very dirty, lots of drugs and lots of dirty stuff. And I was like, geez Louise. But the fact is that you can just order girls like this, like it's a catalog. Seemed to me to be very but he also said, yeah, the OnlyFans, like, cause these girls monetize themselves off both. Obviously, like, to me, it's inspiring that you've got a creator economy, that you know how to monetize, you've got a shop, it's having a full service, and that you've got this shopping model for yourself. But then there's also sad too, because I know a lot of these girls that I knew that were sort of fitness models or stuff like that, were models, now became moms, and now they're trying to get back, and they're like, well, I'm going to go into OnlyFans, because their marriage is splitting and they're drinking a bottle of wine a day. But then you're like, oh, okay. So I guess, believe in yourself, and maybe a niche will follow. But I just think it's a little crazy. It's a little crazy that people can make so much money off of this. I was also thinking too, because like my ex, who's just obsessed with celebrities, which I just find so abhorrent and redundant. But she used to follow these girls to the Playboy Mansion. She used to think, oh my God, I'm going to be a Playboy Mansion girl. I'm going to be a Playboy girl. And that was an aspiration for girls, a lot of girls, particularly when that show came out on E! Network, probably in the early 2000s, late 90s. And it was kind of sad for me, because obviously it's like, oh, I want to get an STD and hang out with a lot of people, because a lot of these girls at the mansion did, because Hef famously did not wear domers and had a bunch of things. But it was just like, and then of course, once he died and everyone turned on him, it's like everyone's like, oh, I hated it and blah, blah. It's like, why did you do the show? I mean, I don't know. Some people get really enthralled by the lifestyle of it all, and then it's easy to pile on a person when he's gone because he can't defend himself. But people, Hef was very popular back then. I think it was this aging playboy, as he was. But glorifying, the sex is always going to be glorifying, taking advantage of people, not so good. But his magazine, as I said, his magazine was more than that. I don't know if his family's taken over. I have not seen a Playboy in a dog's age. If dogs, talking about you, buddy. So yeah. And now, so the future is, I wonder what the future is, because as I said, will women be replaced, and men be replaced on social media? Because I see it coming, the realism of what you can do. And if you can create, look, maybe it's ethical to do it this way. I don't know how immoral or how morals or ethics come into it, because it is good that, I think in pornography, you have now a feminist agenda. You have more trans getting involved. You're satisfying different niches. You're going across. But then, instead of deep fakes, is it going to be where, because I've seen a lot of things now on Insta where it's not even a real person. So are we going to cross that line now where girls in this creator economy disappears because it's some guy just creating this girl in his basement, going, oh, this is my girl now. I don't know if that's his voice. But you sort of wonder if the future of pornography is actually without humans. Men are very visual people. We don't really care about stories. I think women care more about stories. And so I wonder now it's going to be if the future with VR porn and people getting... Obviously, the sex robots are coming. We know that. We know that, there was the fleshlight, which... was just that was one of the pieces assembled. All right, we've got the vagina. Now we just have to build the other parts around it. So you wonder how soon it's going to be with sex robots, because we've seen this dystopian kind of Black Mirror-esque future where it's going to be, oh yeah, they are having sex with the bots. So you wonder where that's going to happen. Is it going to be in my lifetime? I want a helper bot. I don't need the sex for it. I get in trouble with the girlfriend. Also, I'm just, a sentient robot just laughing at me and tiny dick. And you're like, and just wanting to kill me. I don't want to murder. And plus, I prefer human connections. Human connections are really good. So that's sort of where I've been going with the porn so far. I thought I would also sort of end on some other things that have sort of been bothering me, or just things, I'd like to talk about. Iced coffee. I had a few too many coffees the other day. I would like to apologize to anyone who was in an Old Navy store near me. That was me. I was too many coffees, and that was not a good smell. I apologize to anyone in there. It smelled like a porno house. It's just, yeah, I don't know if it did, but it really was. So apologies for that. Another thing, because I talked about anyone who's been listening to this podcast or watching, I have moved back to Canada from the UK. 20 years in the UK. And in Canada, I've bitched and moaned a lot, which I shouldn't, because the rose-colored glasses are on. Rose-colored glasses are on to help me see the better and everything. But as I've lamented in this country, there's an oligopoly here. And it's usually two companies running everything, but as a singularity, with the faux pretense that there's actually competition. So there's this store here called like Loblaws or Zehrs, as it's known near me, and prices are ridiculous. Like, they screw you so hard. You wish they had lube when they do it, but $8 a pound for butter. That's too expensive lube. So pornographic, this one. So anyway, they got this thing here, and because the whole thing they do in Canada is they try to get you with points. It's like, we're going to give you points to nothingness. In this case, what they're doing is, so if you spend, for every $10 you spend on groceries, you get a sticker, and that sticker allows you to get a set of glasses. Not reading glasses, not my lovely rose-colored glasses, but glasses. Now, here's the thing. You collect and save big, and you get them. 75% off. Now, the deal is, so you spend like $140 worth of groceries, and you get 2 glasses for $10. So a savings of $30. Savings of $30 for 2 glasses. So these glasses are $40 for these glasses. $40. I'm like, what is sand? Were these made from the sands of time? How are 2 glasses? And I've seen the quality, not so good. And it's just a scam. I've got the 15 stamps because I'm going to show everyone next episode just what these glasses are like. $40 for 2 glasses. Have you been to Walmart? I don't understand how good they're Capri, like the island in Italy. Capri glasses. And so, yeah, you get 75% off. So you spend $140 and you save $30 on $40 glasses. I don't imagine that these glasses will be any good. I'm going to get them for $10. I might just do one of those things, people when they used to go to like Boxing Day sales and get an Xbox and smash it in front of everyone. I might just break them. Oh, speaking of broken glass, here's a funny thing that happened since I've been back in Canada. So when I was staying at my brother's house in Waterloo, I broke a few picture frames and the glass broke, right? And so I was like, okay, broken glass. What do you do with broken glass? Well, I thought you put it in recycling, right? You put broken glass in recycling. No, not in Canada. So he was banned for 2 weeks for recycling because I put broken glass into the recycling. What are you supposed to do with broken glass? Like, isn't that the point? Like, once you put it in the bin and there's some glass in there and then it goes and it smashes, that's broken glass. Like, am I supposed to carry this in like a little bag somewhere? And it's just ridiculous that you can't take broken glass in. It's like, this is ludicrous that you can't take broken glass. That's just sort of been bothering me. Other thing bothering me being in Canada, I probably said it in England before, you could bring dogs to pubs. Oh, our little dog Puddle, I might put her picture up. Very cute little thing. She would just know. Like, the dogs would love it. My dogs love going to the pub. They would walk towards there. You'd sit by the fire. They'd have little treats with you. Everyone would bring their dogs. Lovely. You see everyone's dogs. As long as it's not an open kitchen, everyone could just sit and it was a family affair with dogs. Why can't you do that, Canada? Why can't we bring dogs to the pubs? Can we work on this? Can we work on bringing dogs to the pubs? As I said, my dog would just love it. She would just smile. She would be so happy. She would cuddle in. It was such a lovely experience to bring the dogs to the pubs. It's an advanced society, I think, that can allow dogs into pubs. You're like, we're so good to bring dogs into the pubs. Other thing, I'm just going on rants here. Hey, it's Rant Wade. Not Jar of Farts, which I talked about last time. Other thing I was thinking of too, fruit flies. You ever go into a pub or a restaurant and there's just like lots of fruit flies? Here's the thing I'm pitching. for every, because I've caught and killed fruit flies and I've lined them up. Once, like I had like 6 of them. For each fruit fly that I catch or kill, I should get $1 or £1 off of my drink, right? So if I've killed 7 fruit flies, that should almost be a free beer, right? Because that's, I'm doing you a service. I'm saving you, but also it's a bounty, right? I'm just saying for a lot of bars, because you got fruit fly problems, fruit fly problems. I got it. Maybe this is a situation. Also, clean your bar. I think that's about it for that. Little piece of advice for everyone out there. I just want to remind someone, because I was telling another friend of mine's son, do not shave your ears ever. Just when you're getting older and you think, I should just take my razor, never do that. Your ears are made of different skin than the rest of your body. They will bleed, and they bleed like more than you can ever imagine. There's a few times, I remember when I was younger, I would try it, and you're like, oh, no. And then you think, okay, never do that again. And then there's that time again where like a couple years later, I'm like, maybe if I just hold it like really tight. No. It's just blood. There's so much blood. And then you got to look like that weird guy who's got toilet paper on his ears. Folks, that's it. Oh my God, I've done almost an hour. Just me talking about porn. Dirty old man. That's it. I want you to check out my socials, because that's the things I should have mentioned on the socials. If you're watching this, I have a YouTube channel, Wade McElwain Comedian. I have AI Art, so I've got Wade's Art House, a Facebook page, and a Facebook group. I have DJ Wade on Spotify. I have X. No, I don't have X. I have Instagram. I'm just watching my other dog just take a piss on the carpet. I don't have that. That is not one. So that's just disappointing. She's 15. What am I going to do? I'm trying to pump myself up here, and she's literally pumping the carpet full of piss. Thanks a lot for that, dog. I should have taken her out. I know, I've been talking too long. Buddy, did you catch that? Rest of the socials I will put up. Make sure you check out my social channels. Thanks a lot for listening to this, and be good to each other. Make sure you check out all of my stuff. And I hope you learned a lot today, particularly about pornography and more about me. Thanks for listening.